we're going to jump into some listener questions. These come over our Discord channel, and we're really happy to have these wonderful fans in our community. So we've got Mikhail says, okay, I have a question for the cast and the storyteller. Where do you all draw your inspiration from when you make a character or write a story for other players to enjoy? When you draw inspiration for your characters, where does it come from?
I guess I'll go first. So when I make my characters, it's usually because I usually do it the last second, unfortunately. So I do it on the fly, and I draw a lot of inspiration. So I'll take little key points or components from characters from certain novels or games that I enjoyed, and I try to mesh them all together and to create some sort of a symbiote of a person. And I go from there, and then also try to take into consideration the sort of elements of the game, like the setting that we're in, the mechanics of what the game would perhaps expect from the character, and try to have that character excel in some of those things. And then from there, I probably try to think of some flaws that they have, some shortcomings perhaps, to sort of explain why they are the way they are. And yeah, sort of just dwindles from there, I guess.
Was there any particular inspiration for Parallax?
It's a good question. Honestly, I made him so long ago, I don't even remember. So it could be from anything.
Can I ask why Parallax is named Parallax? Why is he named Parallax? I want to know.
Oh, he is named after the dragon from Skyrim.
Oh.
Yeah. That's exactly. Yeah, I'm not great with names, so usually
not the parallax effect, because that's like a thing. There's
no.
All right, no.
It's just the dragon. The dragon was cool. Yeah, I'm bad with names, so usually I'll borrow them from something else.
I have used that name for so much of your story, just playing off the parallel lives thing.
That actually, it conveniently worked really well in that sort of aspect. Not planned at all, but yeah, it did work quite well.
Okay, I'll go next. I draw inspiration from people in my life, characters in books, and some characters that I've like watched on some sort of media. And I feel like I have a lot of empathy. And so like when I get to know people, you kind of like turn into them in a way. That's my way of like bonding with people, is I become them. This has gone off too far.
So who is Mona? Who have you become to be Mona? Is that how this has happened?
Mona is based off of a friend of mine from one of my best friends from high school.
That's
so
cute.
Like long time ago.
Is your friend a total badass? Is that what's going on with your friend? Nice.
Yeah, they are.
Comes through.
I can go. I've been trying to think of where Hannah came from. Then I started the other characters that I've made, like Mackenzie from the other game. Or a while ago, I had a space pilot who had a drinking problem / feature. And I like putting really like opposite traits together. It's like hacker but mixed with Lisa Frank, like really precise, like Top Gun pilot, loose morals, drinking problem. But that wasn't the case for Dorothy, who's the original version of Hannah from years ago, and I don't remember And I mean, that worked out really well because Hannah didn't remember. And Hannah, I think they, I don't know, I guess sort of like a punkish hippie, but then it turns out that they're also nervous and anxious. So it's more like I'm playing parts of myself where a lot of the I don't know.
So it's just a self-insert. You're just like,
Yeah.
I'll just have. I can see that. I don't know. I feel like Hannah is also a very complex character who you do a lot of justice to. She's going through a bunch of different levels of things. Also, I am interested to see what the name of Hannah is going to be at the end of this game, because it's not going to be Hannah, right? It's going to be
No.
the newest version.
Yeah, Hannah has gone through a lot of identities and chapters of their life where like most people go through chapters of their life and it's not necessarily a hard stop and start, but sometimes it is, and it definitely is for Hannah. And so when that happens, they're like, oh, new person, and can actually become a new person now that their experience has changed. So yeah, at the end of this, I don't know, it's definitely not going to be Hannah, but we'll see.
Man, I don't feel like I have a good answer. Like, I feel like Charlotte, I base a lot of characters off of characters I like in like stories, or books I've read or things like that. Unfortunately, I feel I start with a lot of times they like, oh, wouldn't it be really funny if, and then realize that I then have to make what was like a ha joke into like now an entire character. And that's the game I get to play with myself. With the case of Ethel, that's my first mage character. So in Rudy's description of the game, he mentions like occulty, magic, Lovecrafty. And I was like, well, I like Lovecraft stories. So it is just cribbing a bunch of Lovecraft things and then making them a brat, because I like to play characters that get to do the things that like super polite Victoria doesn't let herself do, like be a brat or not hurt themselves first, or like, I don't know, drink too much or go on revenge plots or things like that. Though they probably all slowly become me anyway, but that's never the goal.
Wasn't there a particular story, a Lovecraft story? I forget which one, that Ermengarde Ward's the whole bloodline thing was taken from.
A bunch of them. So like Ermengarde's name comes from Lovecraft's melodrama, like farce of a melodrama called Sweet Ermengarde. And I just thought the name was funny. And actually Ethel comes from that story as well. So I stole her name from, and then the sudden name I didn't know I was going to have to give her a second name from too. I wouldn't have given her the coolest name as her real name. And then the Ward thing is the case of Charles Dexter Ward, which is another Lovecraft story about a gentleman trying to keep himself alive indefinitely, in a really creepy and unsettling sort of way. Lovecraft is problematic, but he has good stories.
And as for creating stories, I draw my inspiration from so many places. I was lucky enough to have some wonderful game masters growing up, like my first game master, Mike. He ran our game store. And one of the things that I loved about those games was that they were so open world and our actions had consequences. So I take a lot of my style in telling stories to be, I've set a stage, there is things that are interesting for players to interact with, and then stuff happens. So I like, it's kind of like Skyrim could be an inspiration if Skyrim's plot lines were truly interconnected, more than they're just being like the Imperial versus Whiterun tie-ins to the main plot. I want it all to weave together. Story. Yeah. Oh, and I also should mention that I have been thoroughly inspired by the first edition Mage book, Boston Unveiled. It is really quite good. There are a bunch of NPCs from there that I used, and they are fantastic. There's a lot of open spaces to put in your own plot, and it helps me set that really detailed world, because I do like to come up with a lot of the characters and a lot of the plot, but I don't want it to all be from me. I really like it when there's an element of the rest of the world. Okay, second question. Lindman, who is one of our moderators on the website, asks me, what is your biggest self-insert? And oh gosh, I try very hard to not have self-inserts. I try so hard for Rex to not be my self-insert, because Rex is a very troubled and troubling character. I'd like to say that my biggest self-insert was Brother Finnegan. Yeah, I just wanted to have a good time.
Rest in peace, Brother.
I was in love with Jane Paris and the whole world.
Maybe we can go find Brother Finnegan in the land of the dead at some point later. Bring him back.
You know, he's worse than dead. You unmade Brother Finnegan. They're all unmade, remember?
Oh yeah, that's harder. Parallax.
Second obligatory question for storytellers watching: how much of your style is improv versus meticulous prep? I would say I have a paper here that has my prep for this game session on it. It's got some Wabanaki words on it, as well as some of the big spirits that the players might run into. And I know what the motivations of those characters are. If there's anything that's going to like come up during the session, then, or could potentially come up, I know what that would be. But other than that, it's very improv, because that way anything can change and anything can happen. And I do like writing stories, but the hardest part for me about writing stories is that I'm halfway through a chapter and I already know how that chapter will end. And I am thinking about the next 3 chapters and something really cool that happens in 3 chapters. And I'm never going to get there because it's going to take a million years to type.
And we don't really do any prep. We have like created, Katie's graciously helped with the little post-it notes and tried to make sense of all this. But me personally, I have no prep. Make sure I have a bottle of water to stay hydrated and refresh my spells, but like sometimes, not even all the times.
Wait for Rudy to remind us to have dice before we start recording. That's where I
Does everyone have dice?
I do, because you said it earlier though. I went to go get them then. Thank you, Rudy.
Yeah, I have this bad habit of just rolling 1d10. So Rudy came and gave me a few more d10s to roll, so the process would go a little faster.
Yeah, the audience doesn't sit through it because I just edit out all the 1 die rolls, but the players do sit for it.
It builds the anticipation.
Another question is, for the players, what facet of your character do you like the most? And which would you like an opportunity to spotlight? So what do you like most about your character? And what would you like to spotlight?
Okay, I can go first because I haven't been able to use this as often as I like, but Hannah's legacy is radical and ecologist, so called a reclaimer. And they're one of their motivations, I guess we call it in life, is to help nature reclaim the human-made world, or the way that humans have disrupted nature and its balance. So for example, filling the car with plants a while back. And a long time ago, when Dorothy started to help nature reclaim the Cabal's apartment. But I think it goes hand in hand with some of the themes that we're talking about. And in this particular segment of the story.
All right, I guess I'll go next. So it's not so much true for my character anymore, but it sort of highlights one of the sort of styles that I play. Is I play very high risk, high reward kind of style, and I will say that this usually doesn't work out for me. Usually, my character dies or he has some sort of awful thing happen to them. But yeah, that's one of the things why Parallax become is sort of yeah, at one point was evil and had a lot of wisdom issues, to the point where, you know, he's narcissistic, he's tainted. But yeah, no, I've always liked that about the character, mostly because it sort of resembles my play style. It's so far it's been interesting seeing as that my character had a recent change to their wisdom modifier, so they actually have to be more aware of that, which is good. I like the change. So for now.
So I kind of like how new to the world of magic Ethel is. And so like being able to, because I am also very new to playing Mage, so having some of my own earnest confusion in like this magic world get to just be Ethel's confusion in this magic world is sort of delightful to me. Hopefully it's delightful to you who listen to it. I also like her relationship with Byron.
Well, I do want to actually say on that note that the way you play this game, Victoria, is very welcoming to new players, and it does really help them feel like, you know, you can just jump into what is otherwise a very complicated system.
Hooray! Also, feel free to always use me as a learning aid. I am totally okay to be corrected or to have things explained to, particularly if it benefits other people too. Teaching.
Okay, so I'll go next and say, while Mona is experienced in the mage world, me as a player, it hasn't stuck in my brain yet, all the spells and all like the powers I can do. And I tend to just like stick to like 5 of them when I know I can do so much more. So that's just something I need to work on more. What was it? What's the question? What do I like about my character? I like how secure Mona feels and how confident Mona feels, especially when it comes to magic, even though I don't feel that way. It's kind of like a fake it till you make it. I've been faking it this whole time, and so far, like, I haven't died. So you know what?
I also like how secure and confident Mona feels. I think it's fun. And to our audience at home who are experienced Mage players, you can always come to our Discord and suggest spells that the players with the magics that you see displayed before you on the screen could do cool things, because our players love cool new ways to mess up my plans, and just in general have a great time. We did get one more question from Greg, who says they wonder where all the ideas come from, especially the ones that feel off the cuff. Is it a lifetime of reading horror stories? And yes, I have read a lifetime of horror stories. It's been great. And also, I did a little bit of theater, so my improv is doing it most of the time.
For me, I work with children. Also, you need to learn improv and just making things work. And I also am the kind of person who is good at making decisions, and I'll just make them. And if they usually work, and if they don't, I learn from them and then just keep making more decisions. So that's just how I game, you know.
Teacher, can you repeat the question?
The question was, where do your improv ideas come from? When you have ideas that are off the cuff, so, or all of your ideas for what you want to do in character. And it was also followed up by, is it from a lifetime of reading horror stories? Which in your case, it kind of is sometimes.
A little bit. Actually, I was thinking of a quote from Louisa May Alcott from Little Women, describing Jo, that says, "She is too fond of books and it's addled her mind."
It's not a waste of a mind.
Nope. I also work as a teacher in a museum, so or an interpreter in a museum. So I feel like working in museum is also sort of improv all the time with visitors, which is sort of what makes that such a fun form of learning. And it's also that energy I bring to this of being like, I like to be a learner. So thanks for teaching me. Mona, you're the best magic teacher.
You're welcome. I have no clue what I'm doing.
Buried in your subconscious memory, you've been playing this game for like 10 years.
Oh, it's like almost 15 years now.
Oh God, is that how time works?
That's wild.
Yeah, how do I still not know how to play this game after playing it for 15 years?
To be fair, when we switched to recording the podcast, we also switched the system from first edition to second edition. So all the rules that you thought you knew completely changed. But you've got the new rules.
Yeah, I still have no idea when Parallax is rolled.
There is a table in the back of the book.
I don't want to look at a table.
Okay, it's when you overreach or there's sleeper witnesses. I'm not going to explain reach here, but it's in the book.
I would say that everything I do is off the cuff and not at all premeditated. And when I am thinking through it, I'm pretty sure I talk out loud about what actions I could take and why. So you all hear it live, happening live. I guess my inspiration wouldn't be a lifetime of reading horror, but a lifetime of reading science fiction and fantasy. And so trying to think of what would be the cool logic puzzle solution mixed with what would look really cool if it was happening in a high production movie.
Yeah, backpacking off of Katie's statement. Yeah, definitely lots of, I don't read any horror, but lots of fantasy books. Played a lot of RPGs. So Fallout New Vegas is definitely one of the best. So shout out to that. And if you're looking for a good fantasy novel, I just finished the King Killer Chronicle, which is phenomenal. So if you're looking for a good book series, it's pretty solid. I would wait until the third one comes out yet. It hasn't come out yet. It's very sad.
I've been waiting,
This year, isn't it this year?
waiting for years.
Are you all reading this book series and I haven't started yet?
I finished it a couple years ago. You should read it.
Yeah, it's
Have
really
you
good.
read The Slow Regard for Silent Things? The
Yes.
little
I
novella.
have it. I have not read that yet.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Have any of you read any Mistborn?
No,
I feel like I have actually. Why does that sound so familiar?
If people eat metal and get little specific magic powers from it. It's
Oh.
great. It's like definitely horror dystopian fantasy. It's very well done. I actually like it better than the King Killer Chronicles. Rudy, you'd really like it. There's some really horrifying things going on there.
Oh, I actually have it on my list of books to read.
yeah, I just saved it right now. So thank you for the next suggestion, Katie.
Book
No.
club. We all read Mistborn.
Yes.
I do feel like I should point out that like I love Lovecraft, but he came to me fairly recent in my life, all things considered, in reading, though I definitely grew up loving me some fantasy stories. I am a Tolkien nerd through and through.
That was listener questions. We'll maybe do another round sometime, so keep posting those questions in Q&A if you want to know our answers. Yep, that was a thing.